On This Week in Enterprise Tech, do you know what your data is doing? Did you know your device can get pwned by a charger? Oh, and everything about online reputation management. Try it on the set.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for This Week in Enterprise Tech is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Twiet, This Week in Enterprise Tech, Episode 49, recorded April 5th, 2013, for July 8th, 2013. In the Sauce. This Week in Enterprise Tech is brought to you by GoToMeeting with HD Faces by Citrix, the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate with colleagues and clients from anywhere. You can share the same screen and see each other face-to-face with HD video conferencing, even from an iPad. Sign up for your 30-day free trial today. Visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code ENTERPRISE. And by Jira, an Atlassian product. Jira is the product management solution for teams planning, building, and launching great products. To learn more about Jira and try it free for 30 days, visit Atlassian.com/twit. And by RingCentral. We do everything in the cloud. That's why I love my cloud-based phone system by RingCentral. There are zero startup costs, and RingCentral is $20 per month per user. Try it now with a 30-day risk-free trial and buy one desk phone and get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. Call 800-543-9980 or visit ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. Welcome to Twiet, This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's the show dedicated to the enterprise professional, the IT pro, and the geek who just wants to know how the world is connected. I'm your host, Father Robert Balacer, the digital Jesuit, your guide to all things in the enterprise, and I'm joined by an all-star, all-stellar, all-enterprise cast, starting with Mr. Brian Chi. That's right, the geek in paradise, the evangelist for Thin Links. Brian, how are things going on in Honolulu?
You know, I further get introduced to Mr. Murphy and his laws that everything piles up right before you have to get on a plane.
Absolutely. And well, actually, even better, I guarantee you that within 3 days you're going to have some sort of flu or cold. Are you ready for it?
Oh, joy. Yes, I actually have my prescription of Tamiflu that I'm travel with, just in case.
Nothing like pharmacology. Speaking of pharmacology, we've got another guest who won't make you sick. That's Mrs. Lori Randall Stratman. She is an online business consultant, an expert in online reputation management. Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to the wonderful neighborhood that is Twiet.
Well, I wrote minor shameless plug, Online Reputation Management for Dummies. And I embarked on a solid year of study, deep study, into what's involved with it, what people can do to help themselves.
Nice, nice. And that's the knowledge that you're going to share with the Twiet Riot. So let's get right to it. We've got the Enterprise Bite. That's right. We take some of the news stories straight off the feed. Of course, this being an episode that is far into the future, we're going to sort of prognosticate here. We've got the charging kiosks that can own your smartphones. That's right. A few months ago at DEF CON, we had a bunch of bright kids who figured out that if you reconfigured the charging kiosks that you see throughout airports, you know, the ones that are typically branded Samsung or LG, where you can get a free couple of watts of power into your tablet or smartphone, that you could actually own the devices that are plugged in. This is actually a fascinating story. I really, really like this because it's something that people don't think about. When you see a USB plug, be it on an airplane or in an airport terminal or in a car, you just assume it's just going to give you some power. Well, with all of the vulnerabilities that are found in both iOS and in Android, these guys figured out that you could extract data from a phone even if it was locked. And if it was unlocked, if it had no password, well, you could basically pull everything off of it. Chibert, I want to start with you because, well, you're on a college campus. You see stuff like this all the time. Would you ever plug your phone into a charging device that you didn't know what was on the other side?
No, you and I both have that Energizer to Go XP 18000, so I tend to do all my charging from something like that, you know, a trusted platform.
Right, right. But, you know, what is the thing that sort of drives these DEF CON hackers. I like this. I actually really like this story. Now, I should also mention that they weren't actually trying to own people's phones. What they did was they programmed a workstation. If you plugged in a phone that could then be invaded, it would give you a message that would warn you not to do that. Lori, most people don't realize that when you plug in your phone for power, you're also plugging it in for data. Why do you think it is that that people don't sort of make that connection? That because there's only one connector coming out for your phone, of course, if it can charge it, it can also access your data.
I'll tell you, it's most people just, I mean, we think from our own frame of reference. And when I pick up my phone, I don't think about information coming in and out of, where it charges. It just doesn't typically cross my mind. I will say I did go to DEF CON this past in July of 2012.
Oh, I'm jealous.
It was fascinating. I loved, and I had just read We Are Anonymous by Parmi Olson. And I wanted, because I was digging into something for online reputation management, I wanted to see what they're saying and what they're thinking about social media. Because I have some research I've been doing about that. And they have the wall of sheep. I saw in that article you flashed up the wall of sheep. And it's that's where they, basically you take notes in pencil.
Right, right.
I'm lucky enough to be married to Chris, who optimized my laptop so I could take notes. And but it was a cool experience. Can I just say that the people who do that, they just seem to be really, really smart puzzle solvers. And they're just looking, some of them have pernicious agendas, but I think most of them are just looking for cred. That's me.
I think I should make the disclaimer here now that both Chibert and I know your husband quite well. He is a longtime member of the Interop family, Interop team. He's one of our smartest, brightest, really most dedicated engineers that we've ever had on the Interop team. And so naturally, you'd be up to everything that's happening in the enterprise world. One last bit about this story. Chibert, and again, I want to toss this over to you. We're going to cover this a little bit later in segment 3, but a lot of these phones are used by people both in the personal and in the enterprise realm. In other words, the same smartphone that I use for personal use is the one that I receive my business email on, or that I might even have my enterprise VPN set up on. What kind of security threat is there if I then take a device that is connected to my enterprise class network and I allow it to be owned via, say, a USB charging kiosk?
Oh, it'd be horrible. Just think about it this way. So many people go and set it up so that they save passwords and things like that because they don't, typing your, strong password on a smartphone is not very much fun if you ask me. So you tend to go right in. And the problem is once you're in, they have the keys to the kingdom.
Keys to the kingdom, yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a real bummer. I actually did a demonstration once a long time ago where we demonstrated a Java program that would sit in the background and just snap pictures once every minute. And considering a lot of these holsters have the camera facing outwards, that means I could actually have a camera spying for me as people walk through offices. Kind of scared the bejesus out of a few bureau boys that I met.
Right, right. Now, the chat room, you've got Jerry Rigged and Scott Michaud in the chat room who are saying it's easy enough to either make your own power-only cable by severing the data pins or buy one that only does power-only. In fact, Chibert, you mentioned the Energizer XP18000. That actually does include a cable that cannot pass data. It only can pass power. But I think the problem is most people don't have those. Most people have the cable that came with their phone. Or if they have a replacement, of course they're going to buy the one that also lets them sync it with their laptop. So I think this is still one of those vulnerabilities that's going to hit most people out there. Let's move on to the second enterprise byte. It's somewhat connected. This was a story from Wired that talked about the supposedly clean and clear devices that we give away. What they're specifically referring to is what happens to, say, our smartphones or our tablets when we no longer need them. We either sell them or we give them away. So what we do, well, Chibert, if you're going to give away your phone, what do you do?
I don't give away my phone.
Okay, well let's say you know what, you're a bad example because you're like me and you hoard every piece of technology. So I'm going to go over to you, Lori. Lori, when you give away your phone, you're done with it, it's time to move on. What do you do before you hand it off?
Well, I'm a terrible example because I have kids to hand it off to, and I've got a husband who hoards devices. So
basically, this episode of Twilight has basically become an episode of hoarders. I like this. This is good. Okay. So I'm going to be the hypothetical person, the normal person, who, when I'm done with my phone and I'm getting my next phone, I'm going to give it to somebody else who could use it. Let's say it's a business phone. Well, the problem is with just doing a factory reset, the one that says it will erase all your data, it actually doesn't erase all your data. This article out of Wired talks about how clearing a factory reset phone actually leaves artifacts that can then be recovered using specialized tools. Now, the cool thing about this is it can recover using one of the tools called Mobile Phone Examiner. It can recover everything from SMS messages, to email, call history, contact lists, basically everything on the phone that you thought you had gotten rid of. If it can find an artifact, it can rebuild the data and give someone access to something that they shouldn't have access to. Now, I guess the best possible solution to this is to be a hoarder, to never give away your devices. But if you do, if you pass on your tablet, if you pass on your phone, if you pass on your mobile device, this could be a major, major problem. Cheebert, the article suggested that the only real way to make it safe is to break the device. Is there another way? I mean, is there anything that's truly a secure erasure of data on a flash memory?
Yeah, actually, Packeteer has a great suggestion. Thermite. Lots of fun.
Yes.
By the way, this is not the first piece of software to do this. The Encase forensic tool has had the ability to harvest data off cell phones for quite a while. And what's really cool is even if it's deleted, what it's really doing is just recycling the blocks. Even if a portion of the block is overwritten, Encase has the ability to go and examine slack space, pieces that aren't used. So I can actually grab data even off deleted blocks, which is kind of frightening.
Right. iTuner99 in the chat room brings up another point. He says that, Jerry Rigged says that you could sign in with a dummy account and then you could fill the device up and then erase it, and that should get rid of all the data. The problem with that is it doesn't always work for flash memory. There are tools out there that will actually show you levels of erasure. So even if you were to copy over the memory entirely and then delete it, you could actually go back 2 or 3 erasures and still find the bits and recover enough of it to make it a readable file, a readable bit of data. That's actually kind of scary. Lori, what would you say is the public understanding of erasing data? Do most people think that when they hit the clear button on their mobile device, it's actually gone?
Oh, absolutely. Most people think that 3 days after they post something on Facebook, it's gone, just about. Yeah, there's just this blind faith in, like with laptops, mobile devices, that, yeah, it's gone.
We've got a super special guest coming with us. You may know him. You may love him. It's Mr. Curtis Franklin from Enterprise Efficiency. Curtis, it's so good to have you back on the program. You came in a little bit late because of my fault, because of my scheduling problems. It's good to see you. How is Orlando?
Orlando was great. I'm now back at the Swamp Studio. That was part of the scheduling problem, but it's good to be here. Spent some time learning all about storage and business intelligence, big data, all those big things where you order bits by the pallet load.
I like it. And it's a good thing you were talking about storage, because I want to bring you in on one of our Enterprise Bytes. It was a story from Wired that talked about how data could be recovered off of smartphones that were supposedly cleaned and cleared, data reset. That even if you copied over the data, there are forensic tools that you can use to go back through the flash memory and recover levels of erasures, up to 3 or 4 levels, and get back enough of the data to rebuild a data file, an SMS contact list, an email, or even like your call history. Do you think that this is known in the enterprise world? I mean, do enterprise managers think about destroying mobile devices in order to keep proprietary information from falling into the wrong hands?
You know, I think most managers don't. And this is one of those unfortunate times when the need for security really runs into some of the better instincts of managers. I know many businesses who will do things like donate mobile phones that have been surplused to organizations that either provide them to members of the armed forces serving overseas, or to shelters for abused and battered women. Those are all great things, but I think what we're finding out is that if security is an issue, then the only real option is to destroy the devices, and that's unfortunate.
Right. Chibert, you have a little bit of experience with this. Tell us what the military does when they need to destroy, say, a hard drive.
Well, it's there's actually two different things that we tend to do. One is, in the old days, we'd go and stick a hard drive onto a bulk degausser, and this degausser's got a strong enough field that you don't dare have a watch or any other electronic device in that room. And then after that, then we take it apart, we grind up the disks, we grind up the drive itself, and then we stick it into a furnace and turn it into a ball of slag. Nowadays, it's
and then
actually
you shoot that ball of slag into space. I believe that was the last step.
There's been a lot, but nowadays it's actually cheaper. A lot of federal agencies actually just send it to the National Security Agency. They have a service where they'll do exactly the same thing on a very large scale, and then they sell the ingots to a company that makes manhole covers. So the manhole covers in Washington, D.C. could have had very sensitive information on it at one time.
Now, at my old shop, we did have some very sensitive information, and so what they did was they had an actual drill press inside the back of the shop, and they would just drill through the hard drive, and they figured that was destroyed until someone came through and said, I could actually still recover data off that hard drive. Let me throw it back over to you, Curtis. Again, this is one of those, you know what? I don't want to talk to Curtis right now. I want to talk to Lori. When people talk about the security of their data, how far do you think they're willing to go in order to have data integrity? Will someone actually destroy, say, a $600 smartphone, a $600 tablet, in order to guarantee that nobody will have access to what some of us might think is trivial data?
Let me think about that. No.
Oh, no. That's so sad.
No.
Yeah. No, but it's kind of true, right? Because these devices are expensive, and we can't part with them. I want to get back to this, but first, Lori, give me a little tease. What is online reputation management? What will we be talking about when we come back?
We'll be talking about what happens when you don't pay attention to what you're putting out there online or what other people might be putting out there.
So we're going to talk about what's out there coming up. But first, I want to take a break to talk about our first sponsor. I believe that to be successful in business, you need to meet with your team, with your colleagues, with your compatriots regularly. You need to know what each other is doing. You need to be on the same page. You need to hear the ideas, the thoughts, the process that's going on in order for you to communicate properly. Now, you need to discuss your plans, to share the ideas in order to create that innovation, to create that creative flow that makes business so successful. But meeting with clients and colleagues and partners can be troublesome. Let's be honest, especially during the summer where we all want to be outside. We want to be on the beach. We want to be enjoying ourselves. That's why we use GoToMeeting by Citrix. It's the powerfully simple way to meet and collaborate online. Now, GoToMeeting with HD Faces gives your team the ability to share the same screen, making it easier for you to be on the same page, even if you're not in the same place. You just turn on your webcam to meet face to face, and you can collaborate like you're in the same room. It's so easy to launch or join a meeting from anywhere using your computer, smartphone, or tablet. And hey, you can even present from your iPad. How's that for portability? I talk a lot about GoToMeeting on Twipe, and it's not just because they're an ad provider, but because I am actually a customer. That's right, I use it on a daily basis. Now, my job in DC has me flying all around the world, literally all around the world, hundreds of thousands of miles a year. And you know what? That just takes its toll. It takes its toll on my body, on my work schedule, and yes, on my sanity. So when I thought that I might be able to get rid of some of those trips, replacing them with high-definition video conferences on GoToMeeting, well, it was a no-brainer to me. Since I started using GoToMeeting, I've been able to meet with the people that I need to meet with more regularly, to have more productive meetings, to not step off a plane completely exhausted and try to muddle through a meeting just because I had to. And let me tell you, it's made all the difference. GoToMeeting has saved my organization money, it's saved me time, and yes, it has saved my sanity. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and use the promo code ENTERPRISE. Remember, use the promo code ENTERPRISE. That's GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. And we thank Citrix for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now we're going to talk about online reputation management. Laura, you teased us right before the break. Online reputation is what's out there. So tell me, what is online reputation management? What exactly can you do with what's out there?
Well, before we just dive right into online reputation management and finding out what's out there, I'd like to just tell you a little something that will probably knock your socks off.
Okay.
Well, until very recently, most of us thought about blogging and social media as just entertainment, something fun. We didn't see it as crucial to running a business or, maintaining a career. It just, and most people, a lot of people still want to just avoid it because they don't know how to work with it. So it's just kind of like la, 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 la. And they don't want to look and Google their names online to see what they see,
right.
And or how much isn't there, or how much is there. So here's the story. A couple years ago, one Monday morning, it was business as usual at Domino's headquarters. Meanwhile, all weekend long, there had been this huge, angry firestorm of commentary online on YouTube. It started on YouTube about them. It started on YouTube, and then it migrated. You see dirty Domino's pizza. Some employees made a disgusting video. They did these sorts of things and worse to food, claiming that they were serving it and it was going out the door and people were going to be eating this, really gross food. And so it's just two board employees in one location in North Carolina. And so they put it up on YouTube, and all these people start responding, and just they had a complete hate fest. And it migrated over to Twitter, and everybody's like, oh my God, did you see this? Domino's is disgusting. And then it goes over into Facebook. Everybody's talking on Facebook. It goes into the blogosphere. People are writing blog posts, embedding those YouTube videos. Google's algorithms at this point are going absolutely wild because just like Domino's pizza, it's hot and it's fresh information. So meanwhile, at Domino's headquarters, it's Monday morning. They're sipping coffee, swapping stories about their weekend. They had no idea that all weekend long, there had been a giant hate fest in their honor online. And thankfully, they became aware of it, and some people worked with them to help them discover where these videos came from. And thankfully, just for the record, the employees never sent the food out to anybody. And this was verified because they had a nice computerized point of sale, and there were no orders during the 2 hours.
Right. Let me break in here, because I think the most fascinating aspect of this story wasn't what the employees were doing, because
right.
Honestly, I've worked in fast food before, and employees do worse than that when they're
God.
But I think the fascinating topic here, especially for an enterprise view, is the fact that it lasted an entire weekend. Well, a major corporation had no idea what was happening to the reputation online. I remember when this came out, it was one of these things where there was no word from Domino's. And so it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And now I'm not saying that had Domino's jumped out in the first hour and said these employees had been terminated and we're investigating, that it would have made it all better. But at least it would have shown that they were paying attention. I think what that did to them is it made Domino's suffer not just because you had employees doing stupid things, but also because it seemed as if they didn't know how people communicated anymore. And that never is good for an enterprise. Cheever, let me go over to you. It's sort of become par for the course that an enterprise be able to monitor its reputation online. It'd be able to monitor its brand online. What does it say if, let's say, HP or Microsoft were to let something like this go an entire weekend? Employees doing something horribly bad, customer support being rude, whatever it might be. What does it do to a modern company to be seen as unmodern?
Dude, it's one of those things. You know, your most precious commodity with it, you know, even more than the intellectual property is your reputation. And if your reputation goes in the dumper, it's actually a pretty expensive process to get it back. And, you know, someone's always going to say, oh, you know, I bet you they're just lying. My favorite thing that I've ever seen on how to deal with this was that company that, I can't remember, it's feminine hygiene products, and they had the fake CEO. That was awesome.
It was Kotex, you know, I think.
Yeah, it's hard because there's too many people that think if it's on the internet, it's real. And it's like, no, come on, people. Take it with a grain of salt. Just like that that commercial that's on TV about the French model. If it's on the internet, it must be real.
Right.
Bonjour.
Yeah, bonjour.
Curtis, what's your take on this? We've got a company that should be forward-looking in social media. It should be forward-looking in its online reputation. It should be forward-looking in the use of social media to make customers happy. And yet they allowed this to go on for, Lori, it was more than 48 hours, right?
It was. In that instance, I have another pizza story, oddly enough, that took 6 hours to boil over. The time is getting shorter and shorter.
Right, but so Curtis, with a break that long, what would be, let's put it into, again, the enterprise setting. What would happen if you had an executive who did not realize that his brand was being bashed for an entire weekend?
Well, you do see this, and I think one of the problems is that the social networks, the whole phenomenon of the social network has moved faster than senior executives' ability to keep up with it. You know, we're only so far removed from a time when senior executives were saying that social media and social networks were just something that the kids were doing, and we want to keep it out of serious business entirely. Well, that same mindset says that for the central office crew, at least, business is something that tends to happen Monday through Friday. Come Friday at 6 o'clock, everybody kicks off. You have the weekend to recuperate, and you're back Monday morning. Something that happens Friday night, Saturday morning, it does stay off the radar screen until Monday morning. What we know now is that the business cycle, the business news cycle, is 24/7. And just in the same way that enterprise IT has had people with pagers on their belts, now people with smartphones on call for the weekend in case something went down, you now have to have people in the marketing and public relations departments who are on call over the weekend just in case something like this goes on. They can swing into action, get everybody else involved quickly, like Lori said, in that 6-hour window or even faster, rather than letting it fester for the entire weekend.
Right. Lori, I want to go back to you. So we are deep in the story. Domino's is in the sauce. What's going on?
Loving that. So they were able to determine that it hadn't really happened. But here's what they did that was wonderful, that was smart, and this is how they changed. This is a transformative story. They learned from their mistakes. The president, Domino's USA, I think his name was Patrick Doyle, created a video where he gets up there and there it is, and he very earnestly apologizes and gets to the bottom of it. And something that's really important for responding to something is being really candid, very honest about what's going on. It's okay to say, we don't know what's going on right now, or we don't have the full details yet, but we'll let you know when we do. It says, I care, I'm listening, I'm being responsible. That's the best response. And so they actually ended up doing very well after that. They recovered fully and did even better. And it didn't, in the long term, this whole blow up, they learned that you do have to be responsive 24/7. It was a lot of companies still are not covering themselves adequately.
Right.
And I have some advice about that.
Well, let's get to that. But again, what strikes me about this case is how different it is from the corporate handbook even 20 years ago. I actually remember reading PR handbooks, PR statement handbooks, that when dealing with the traditional media, the strategy was always either deny, 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 or no comment. To say, well, we're looking into it. But they basically stonewall. And it used the phrases that the public knew were used whenever someone or a company didn't want to comment on a particular topic. This is something different. And I think you struck the needle on the head here, and that is to say, if you don't answer candidly, if you don't give people something that at least lets them know that you're acting like a human, they will go crazy on the interwebs and further destroy your reputation. That's kind of a recent phenomenon, right?
It is. And can I just expand on that for a moment?
Absolutely.
The thing that I absolutely love about social media, but that also makes it pretty dangerous if you're not paying attention to what's going on, is that things have been revolutionized from a one-way messaging for big business television stations, what have you, these institutions. You have, and it's changed to two-way, or just not a hive mind, but there are multiple points there. And so you can't, if you're a company, you can't control things nearly as well as you used to be able to. And the perception that you can is one that will lead you into trouble. You can do a lot of interesting things. I have a great success story about kind of priming things and feeding them online so that there is a very positive kind of firestorm, if you will, of great comments and free publicity.
Right, right. I actually want to go to another story that was given to us by Hawk in the chat room. He's pointing out this consumerist article about how Target had a dress that it was gray. The color was gray. But if you tried to get the plus side, the name changed to manatee gray. And this is one of those things where it was egg on their face. Target admitted, they actually came out. They didn't try to change the name. They didn't try to change the facts. They actually admitted, yeah, this was insensitive. I'm sure it was a joke somewhere along the line. It got past quality control. We're sorry for it. I think this leads right back into what you were talking about. This is the new way to deal with a PR snafu. The old way would have been to say, oh, it must have been the supplier, blah, 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 blah. This is Target saying, okay, our bad, we're sorry. We'll try to make it not happen again. Basically, it's the same thing from the action point of view, but from the PR point of view, it's a completely different strategy. Lori, tell us a bit more about that.
Well, it's absolutely different. People expect you to relate with them differently. It's much more familiar. And just there's something that happens when you sit in front of a monitor, even if it's just on a mobile device or laptop, desktop, it doesn't matter. When there's a sense of intimacy and familiarity that we get, and we expect that level of communication, the kind of a hierarchical sense of communication is being swiftly eroded.
Right. Okay, now, I want to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to throw a little bit of a curve at you. We've been talking about what happens when companies need to respond to something that they did. Either they had a bit of bad PR or they made a bad name choice. What about when they're being attacked? I'm going to give an example right now of actually a Twitch show, a show on This Week in Tech called NSFW from a man by the name of Brian Brushwood. he got 4chan. Now 4chan is they're a powerful force. You got to respect them. I mean, they do things for the lulz. Sometimes they seem to be a bit destructive, but in this case, they were jumping onto one of his videos and they made a concerted effort to call him a pedophile and horrible, horrible things. And they were actually very artful about the way they did it. They weren't just saying nasty things. They were sort of crafting a narrative about him. Now, the corporate response might have been to shut down the video, to disable comments, or to vigorously deny it because, well, that's what they would do. Brian decided to go another route, and he basically said, I cannot defeat 4chan. I'm not going to be able to overcome these guys, so I'm going to roll with it. He made a video that said, hey, I won the internet lottery. 4chan's watching my video. It means I must have made it. It actually worked because the guys at 4chan got their laugh, and they realized, okay, so this guy kind of gets it. We're going to stop bothering him. We're going to move on to somebody else who will be more annoyed by getting attacked. That seems to be, it's another way of doing online reputation management, but it's, again, it's different. It's not saying I'm going to hit you back. It's not saying I'm going to go after you. It's saying, please stop. I cannot defend myself against you, so I'm just going to throw myself down and beg for forgiveness, whatever it is. What does your book say about being actively attacked by what we're going to call trolls?
I absolutely love this story. Absolutely love the way he responded to it because the 4chan community is huge. It's diverse. They're very, they've got lots of tricks up their sleeves. It would be hideous to try and confront that. And you don't want to feed the fire anyway. You don't want a forum full of comments where you go back and forth and trade comments about something and tell Google, oh, this is interesting. We should put it up high. You don't want to do that. But, and I love that he did this concession video. But I want to add something to the aspect of, throwing up the white flag. Hey, we're done here, I give. And that is that he kind of flattered them. He let them, because they do things for the fun, and he acknowledged that they're quite a force to be reckoned with. Right. And so it's like, oh, okay. So in answer to your question, when you deal with trolls, it's the old saying, don't feed the trolls. And, in practical terms, so if someone's just hating on you for no good reason, I mean, they just, I don't know, maybe they just have no basis and they're just hating on you, don't respond in kind at all. Jerry, and if you can.
Jerry Rigged in the chat room, he says, the bigger the stone wall you build, the more trolls live under it. And actually, I think that's quite good. Cheebert, let me throw over to you. We brought up two different scenarios that enterprise could be caught up in, businesses could be caught up in. What would you say is the worst possible thing, the worst way that a business could respond to either a bad PR event or a troll attack?
Personally, I think it's fighting back. If you start getting into name calling, like we have seen in some cases, it's just going to feed the fire. And not only is it going to feed the fire, it's going to throw gasoline on the fire, and people are going to go crazy. No, just I guess I'm going to go back to the old saying, sticks and stones, so forth. Just turn another cheek. Sticks and stones will hurt you, but words won't. Just roll with it, deal with it, but don't fight back. Throwing rocks back, it just means there's going to be more people throwing rocks back over your wall.
Right. But Curtis, fighting back seems to be, it's the thing we want to do, right? If someone is destroying my brand, work that I have put into it is being ripped away, my brand is being destroyed for no good reason, I want to fight back, yes?
Oh, absolutely. And fighting back is not only natural. I'm going to disagree a little bit with Cheebert here. I think it's important that an enterprise respond. Now, that response doesn't need to be an attack on those that are attacking the enterprise. What it does need to be is getting good information, positive information out in a very realistic, very rapid, and very authoritative way. There's the communications theory that goes under the name of the marketplace of ideas. And it's really the foundation of our whole First Amendment, the idea that the best ideas, the truth, will ultimately be recognized if it's put out there. And so I think it's important when someone is spreading lies about your enterprise to go out with the truth. You can say, we're putting the truth out in order to respond to events, but this is accurate. If there is a germ of truth in the attack, then you acknowledge it, and then you say what you're doing to respond to that. But you get your story out there. Don't let the lie be the only story that the marketplace is hearing, because nature does abhor a vacuum. If that's the only sound out there, it's going to echo out there for a long time.
Lori, I want to get back to you. We've talked about, what happens when your reputation is being ruined, but I want to bring up what happens after your reputation has been dragged through the mud, after your brand has been damaged, after your reputation has been destroyed. But before we get there, I want to take a moment to thank another one of our sponsors for being here on This Week in Enterprise Tech. It's my pleasure to welcome a brand new supporter to the Twilight Riot. That's Jira by Atlassian. Now, Jira is one of the world's most powerful and customizable issue and project management systems. It easily captures and organizes your workflow so you can prioritize and take action on what's important while staying up to date with the activity going on around you. Now, here's a few of the things that Jira can do for you. It easily captures, organizes, and prioritizes your team's issues, tasks, features, and bugs. It gives your team a simple, intuitive interface for collaborating with each other in real time. It seamlessly integrates your planning documents, your backlog, your issues, and your code repositories all on one platform. If you're a developer, this is the solution for you. You can set up any business process that you can imagine so that your team works the way that they want to, not the way that the tool demands them to. You also get to define your own issue types to track the information that matters most to your team. This is all about the ability to customize the tool according to the way that you work best. You can stay in the loop with notifications via email, chat, ad mentions, or RSS. Basically, any type of communication can be integrated into the tool, so you get to monitor the things that you need, the streams of activity, the self-updating reports, and the dashboards that keep you in the know. You get to expand indefinitely in any direction with hundreds of Jira add-ons, including test management, time tracking, project management, and hundreds of other uses. If your issues involve code, Jira ties everything together from an initial planning document, the files, the change set in your code repository, all the way through the development process. Jira's integration with Git allows teams to follow their code from development all the way through delivery in just one system, one tool, one window. You can even build onto Jira yourself with the power of Atlassian's REST APIs. Jira is flexible and simple enough for a 5-person startup, but powerful and reliable enough for a 100,000-seat enterprise. Jira is used by over 20,000 companies, including 70% of the Fortune 100 and NASA itself. Jira sits at the heart of Atlassian's offering for managing your entire application development process from concept to launch. So here's what I want you to do. If you are in development, if you manage teams, if you are part of a project, you need to try Jira today. Go to Atlassian.com/twit for more information on Jira. Monthly plans start at $10 a month for up to 10 users. Try it free for 30 days. Remember, Atlassian.com/twit and select Jira. Atlassian.com/twit, select Jira. And we thank Atlassian for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. And we're back. Lori, I want to ask you, once a company's reputation has been damaged, once they've been dragged through the mud, what can they do to fix their online reputation? I mean, if Google is now page ranking all of these complaint pages against, let's say, Domino's, or let's say a campaign starts up against Target, what do you do to fix that?
Well, I strongly suggest that they kind of take control of their messaging. And what that looks like is, let's just say let's use the manatee example, the manatee gray for the larger dress. So people are hating about that. You've dealt with it, you've responded, you've given your side of things, you've gotten truth out there, and they're still hating about it. You can't control that. But here's what I suggest. Not only, in reference to that, I do suggest that you rally around some influencers who are friendly to your brand. And that relates to the system I have, which involves making friends with influencers, brand evangelists, as a proactive means.
All right.
Stitch in time saves 9. It's to get them to write things, to blog things, people to then share those positive things about Target on social media and share stories, and for Target to do some positive things and to write about those things and see if other people will write about those things and share about those things, and to basically fill up Google with better things than this Manatee Gray story.
Right. It's actually amazing that you bring that up, because that is precisely what Brian Brushwood tried to do with the 4chan attack on Scam School. And that was, he basically reached out to his audience. He reached out to the people who were loyal to his brand, to his online reputation. He really didn't have to do anything. They started replying to the Slashdot trolls. They started coming in and saying, I don't think this is right. And it did something for Brian that he never could have done for himself. In other words, if he had come forth and started saying, oh, all these stories are untrue, all these stories are ridiculous, it would have fed the trolls. They would have kept coming back. They would have sharpened their pitchforks and attacked again. But once they realized, oh, this guy's got fans on the internet, and this guy has people who are going to defend him, it was no longer that fun. And it's much nicer to pick on, say, a big enterprise, a big corporation that is going to go crazy out of its mind trying to get their team of PR people to put out official press releases. Brian, I want to go over to you. Let's say that your online reputation is being attacked. Who would you be able to rally, as Lori mentioned? Who would you be able to call forth to try to help you fix your reputation once the attack was over?
I don't know. I'm not sure I'm a good person to answer this, but I'd probably go, my first thing would be go to the people that, I work with on a regular basis. Nowadays, I'd probably definitely hit the chat room. But, this is not something a whole lot of people put time and thinking in. And, truth be told, I haven't really thought of it. Anything I put out onto the net, I make sure that, it's something that I don't care. I don't put anything on the net that can't be public. But yeah, someday this is probably going to bite me. And truth be told, I'm not even sure who I'd start with.
Curtis, let's go over to you. Most enterprises that I know of, that I've worked with, don't actually have a response plan for when they're attacked by the internet. They may have a response plan for what they do if something embarrassing happens at the company or if some story gets out. But they don't seem to recognize a troll attack, which is a very real possibility. Why is that?
Well, once again, I think we're at a point where things have moved more rapidly in technology than the enterprise has been able to respond to them. I am hearing enterprises now talk about what they'll do in case of a troll attack. You're hearing especially those companies that have larger PR departments. The younger PR professionals certainly think about this. I've talked to people who are getting their PR degrees in university now. They're very aware of this. So I think that you are going to start to see more and more companies who have responding to online attack in their PR playbook right alongside with the malicious product tampering, crash of a vehicle if you're in some sort of transportation, all of the normal things that PR departments know they have to have a canned response in place for. I think that the online attacks are right up there, and the key is, in fact, to have some sort of plan in place when things are happening rapidly. The last thing you want to be doing is improvising. Have a plan in place, work to the plan, and then modify if necessary, but be ready to act as rapidly as possible.
Lori, I want to give you the last word on, this time up of online reputation management, and that is, what would you want the enterprise manager, the PR jockey, the small business social media guru to know about maintaining, managing, and fixing your online reputation, what would be the one bit of sage advice that you would want to send out to them?
Have a system in place. Be prepared, have a system in place. Have a team that handles your everyday social media and have 24-hour coverage. And, if you're a small concern, you don't have to have it overnight necessarily, but do check it first thing in the morning. Absolutely check over weekends. And then it's really important to have a meeting, a crisis team meeting, like people who are in charge of someone from an executive, somebody from human resources, someone from the legal department, and brainstorm for worst case scenarios. What if? And then some prospective courses of action. And that way, God forbid if something happens, they at least have something, a frame of reference to start with. So, like Curtis was saying, they don't have to improvise. The smartest thing you can do is to sit down and really think about what you want to do with your messaging, because you can use it for not just avoiding troll attacks or dealing with them. You can use it for recruiting. You can use it for product development, research, customer service. You can use it for all kinds of things. It's a powerful tool. And I just want to say that at this particular point in time, it is wide open for small and medium-sized companies to really establish themselves online. And it's a lot of larger companies are doing their best, but they haven't managed to own on Google as thoroughly as they might like. So now's the time to establish yourself and create a messaging strategy for what you want to communicate to the world, what story you want Google to tell about you, and take action.
I like that. It's be prepared. Always, always a good motto. Now, we're going to come back in just a bit to talk a bit more about BYOD, a little update for those people who are bringing their devices into the workplace. But before that, I want to take one last break to talk about our third awesome sponsor. When Leo built the brick house, he decided that he wanted everything in the cloud. I mean, we want to do dog fooding. If we're telling people to be up in the cloud, why wouldn't Twit do the same? So when our IT guy, Russell, came to us and told us that we could have a full-featured phone system, a PBX, in the brick house without all the PBX hardware, well, it was a no-brainer. We love RingCentral. There are zero startup costs, no PBX hardware to install or maintain, and RingCentral allows us to easily customize all of our call handling. Our producers get their voicemail and their email, and we can even get our fax messages right on our smartphones. And right now they have a new feature. It's called the RingCentral app for Salesforce.com. You can integrate all of your phone calls with your CRM system seamlessly, create new records for contacts and leads, and create real-time call notes while you're on the call. It really makes your CRM more productive, and it's easy to use. Now, RingCentral offers you all-inclusive pricing as low as $20 per month per user. You can start right now with a 30-day risk-free trial, and they have a special offer for my listeners. When you buy one desk phone, you get a second phone free, up to 20 phones. So call this number, designated for my listeners, 800-543-9980. That's 800-543-9980. One more time, just for good luck, 800-543-9980. Or you can go to ringcentral.com and use our promo code TWIT. That's ringcentral.com, promo code TWIT, and we thank RingCentral for their support of This Week in Enterprise Tech. And we're back, and I will wrap up a story that we started in the first segment about devices getting owned. This time, it comes from the telecompetitor.com website. It's a study about how 90% of U.S. workers are BYOD users. That's bring your own device. It's a trend that we're seeing in business where people will take the devices that they use at home, their tablets, their smartphones, their mobile devices, even their laptops, and bring them into the office. They will use that as their primary computer. Now, the reason why they do that is because they find it, well, just easier to do. If I'm using the same device I use all the time, it makes it easier for me to work, and it also makes it easier for me to shuttle information back and forth. On the surface, that's a great idea. It seems like it would lead to a lot of efficiencies, but there's one big, huge, glaring drawback. Cheever, what would you say would be the major drawback of BYOD?
a wide open door into your network.
Exactly. We've talked about this before. With BYOD, we need devices that can access the corporate network, because it doesn't do me any good to walk into my office with my laptop if my laptop doesn't have permissions to access the network. Now, let's take it one step further. I have my laptop at home, so my IT department is going to set it up that I can VPN into the network in order to access the data that I need to work, which means my laptop is now an external portal into my network. And if I get it owned, that means my network gets owned. The logical conclusion here is we can expand that paradigm to my smartphone, to my tablet. So Curtis, combine this with the story we had in the first segment about really easy ways to own smartphones, really easy ways to own tablets. What does this mean for network security? What can I, as an IT manager, do once I'm allowing BYOD devices into my network that then poke through my firewall?
Well, what we're seeing these days is a growing number of companies that are developing intelligent BYOD policies. Now, you do see some that still have the no personal devices can be used. You have some that say, well, we haven't figured it out, so people are wide open. But a growing number are saying, yes, you can choose your device, but if it's going to have access to our network, then it must be set up. It must be used in accordance with some very basic rules. Now, fortunately for the enterprise, the category of MDM, mobile device management software, is improving rapidly, where it once was a case of, if you're going to bring your device into the network, you have to give me, the network administrator, the ability to wipe all your data. Now you can put corporate data into a walled section of the device and say, I'm going to control that walled section. That has to be password protected. That has to be encrypted. And you have to say that I can erase the corporate data. That's good enough for many purposes. On top of that, enterprises are getting much more serious about educating the employees, saying it's not just that we want to be Grinches, it's that we want to keep important people from going to jail. Important people, in many cases, can include you. What we're seeing is that people are recognizing that employees just want to be productive. IT is taking seriously the charge to increase the value of IT and decrease the hurdles they put in the way of the rest of the company being productive. BYOD is here to stay. Fortunately, the tools and the policies are getting better, just not as fast as people like our friend Chibert would like to see.
Right. Chibert, I want to go back to you. The study shows that 9 out of 10 users are using their personal devices for work. It also shows that 40% of those do not protect their devices with even the most basic protection. So there's not even a password, not even a slide screen on the phone. It's simply turn it on and go. And half of those people connect to public Wi-Fi systems and leave their devices discoverable via Bluetooth. So in other words, they're not only are they not protected, but they're easily hacked, they're easily owned. As a person who has worked at a really large campus environment, a really large enterprise class network, what challenges does that give to you? Even if you were to say, segment those BYOD devices off into their own part of the network, what does it mean to have that many devices that you cannot trust?
It's a nightmare. Academia is really bad because the academics don't like firewalls. They don't like restrictions. Heck, we even put just something as benign as a porn scanner on the firewall and got a ton of complaints. And our question was, why are you complaining about something like this? People just don't like rules. And if you have a strong IT group that can actually set policies and make the policies work, there needs to be a middle ground. BYOD can be a real pain, and it needs to be accommodated, but geez, users need to be reasonable too. I think a lot of the issue is going to be in user education. Nobody likes having their equipment owned. They just don't realize they are owned.
Right, right. Lori, let me throw this to you because you can give us a unique perspective, being not a hardcore network enterprise geek here, but more of a normal user, someone who we would expect to see using our enterprise class networks. What restrictions would you be willing to live with in order to be able to use your mobile phone, your tablet in the workplace?
Well, definitely having a password. I mean, that doesn't seem so horrible.
But would you allow, say, the enterprise manager, the IT manager, to have access to your phone, to at any given point delete your data or to cut you off from the network without you knowing?
You see the quirk of the eyebrow?
Yeah. See, I think
not so sure about that.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because from the IT side, from the geek side, it makes perfect sense that we have that ability. But from the user, from the regular user, that's who you represent. That seems like absolutely just no. That's a deal breaker, right?
Well, absolutely. I personally, if someone just told me that and it wasn't explained to me in exquisite detail, I would be thinking, you know what? I paid for this device. My information's on there. I pay for the service. And you know what? You have absolutely no right to dictate to me what I'm going to do with this.
Exactly.
As long as it doesn't pertain to you. And I'd have to understand how it pertained to them and how I might be accidentally stepping on their toes, because it's not clear at all.
Right.
To the regular person. I'm
going to throw you to you last, Curtis. And Hawk in the chat room brings up a really good point, specifically talking about what Lori mentioned with this is her phone. She bought it. This is $600 of her money. The flip side of BYOD is that employees are now expected to bring in their own devices, to pay for their own devices to be productive. So if they're doing that, if they're shouldering that cost, does the enterprise really have the right to ask for the permissions that we would need to ask for access to the data, to be able to remotely wipe a phone, to be able to disconnect them from the network at any given time?
Well, let's understand where BYOD came from. It wasn't that the company was not providing the devices. It's the employee who said, you know, I don't like the device that the company is providing. You're providing me with last year's smartphone, and I want this year's smartphone. If the company will provide a device, but the employee wants to choose their device, then the company has a lot more leeway. Now, there are a lot of companies that have gone to a stipend model where they say, you, the employee, you go out and buy what you want to be productive, we'll pay for it. But because we are paying for it, you're going to abide by our rules. Like I said, you're starting to see companies develop much more fine-grained policies, and as those come about, they're working with the employees. The old days of my way or the highway, or this is my device, I'll use it the way I want to, and you, the network administrator, have nothing to say about it. Both of those extremes are going away rapidly, and it's about time.
Well, thank you, Curtis. In fact, thanks to all of our panelists. Listener, you've done it again. You have used up an hour listening to the best dang enterprise tech coverage in the world. I want to thank our panelists, starting with you, Brian, for being part of the Twilight Riot. What's going on with you? What do you think our audience needs to know about the Geek in Paradise?
The Geek in Paradise is slowly but surely wandering back towards the private sector and trying to close down projects. Chat room, you're kind of saying, run, stay in academia, but I'm not so sure about that. I think it's time for a change, and Thin Links is a fun startup to play with, and I'm really enjoying working with them.
Curtis, what about you over at Enterprise Efficiency? What do you need the Twilight Riot to know about?
Well, it has been a busy spring of conferences and expos. We're combining all of that information into our stories, and we'd still love to hear from more of the Twilight community. If you're an executive who has a story to tell about an interesting project, an interesting company, or just an interesting way of doing things, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a message, either franklin@enterpriseefficiency.com or direct message to my Twitter handle down here, and I'll be back in touch.
Fantastic. Lori, thank you so very much for coming on. You give something to the program that we haven't had for a while, and that is sort of the non-hardcore geek, non-network jockey perspective on something that's actually very important to the enterprise. So what would you like our audience to know about the work that you do?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on with the Twiat Riot. I'm loving that. And yeah, I have been speaking places I get to go to very soon here. I get to go to the Canary Islands to share my love and of online reputation management and to show people how to build a system for themselves. And I'm doing audits. So people call me to come review their business and do an online reputation audit. And I can make suggestions and help people to get their messaging where they want it to be, to tell their story online, have Google reflect that. So they can contact me at, right down there, LoriRS.com, or I'm everywhere online. Lori Randall Stradman.
Fantastic. And again, thank you for coming on. It is a pleasure. We will make sure to have you back when we have more fun to go through with online reputation management. I want to thank everyone out in the audience for listening to this hour of Twiat. Now, did you know that you could subscribe to us on iTunes and pretty much any other method you can imagine? That's right. If you go to our show page at twit.tv/Twiat, you can find all of the different ways that you can have Twiat goodness dropped into your device of choice, each and every single week. That's right. You want to drop it into your iPhone? Yeah, we could do that. Your iPad? Of course. Your Android phone? Yes. Your Android tablet? Are you kidding me? Even your Zune. We make it easy for you to get each and every single episode in the way that you want it. Also, we film this show live. That's right. Every Monday at noon Pacific time, we're here in the Brick House, in the Twit studio, giving you the greatest that we can get. Now, if you stop by live, you'll also have a chance to jump into our chat room at irc.twit.tv versus the live channel, which is live.twit.tv, and meet some of the greatest trolls, some of the brightest engineers, and some of the all-around best guys that the Twit community has to offer. Now, I also want to ask you to go ahead and follow us on our Twiat YouTube page at youtube.com/Twiat. It's sort of a brand new experience for us. We're trying to branch out and grow this audience. We don't have that many subscribers right now because most people are getting us on the regular Twit feed. But you know what? I want you to jump over to this to show your love for This Week in Enterprise Tech. Also, you'll be able to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/PadreSJ. If you follow me, you'll be able to find out what each show is going to be about. You'll be able to suggest topics for future shows and find out what the life of the digital Jesuit is like. I also want to thank Cyberdog in the chat room. He's the guy who helps us transcribe everything into our show notes. And finally, I want to thank you and you. That's right, you, Jason, the guy running the TD desk. This is the man who keeps everything running, along with my super producer, Karsten, and everyone else here in the Twit Brick House. I'm Father Robert Balasaire, and remember, want to know what's going on in the Enterprise? Just keep Twiat.